ലോകമേ തറവാട് തനിക്ക് ചെടികളും
Namaskaram. My name is Ramdas Vallathol, a nephew of Poet Laureate Vallathol Narayana Menon. As soon as the first lockdown took place, we family members got together and decided to initiate a Vallathol Memorial web series. The purpose was to conduct webinars, different webinars on various areas where the Poet Laureate had left huge footprints. So we conducted webinars on Mohiniyattam, then Kathakali, then patriotism, then Vallathol and Gandhi messages, the similarity between the two of them. And then we did a Vallathol Kavya Maliga to be followed with Dance for Unity. And the last one we did was Vallathol and his huge contribution to the field of Ayurveda. Now, as we all know, Kerala Kalamandalam, founded by Poet Laureate Vallathol, is celebrating the 90th year. So we decided to start a sub-series under the title Prescriptions for an Even Better Kalamandalam. The idea is to invite legends in this field who have got in-depth knowledge on the subject, huge experience of actually performing on hundreds, if not thousands of stages across the globe. And they got emotional attachment to Kerala Kalamandalam. And more importantly, they don't have any vested interest. So the idea was to invite such legends and have a one-to-one discussion and to get their suggestions and guidance and experience from which the current students of Kalamandalam, the administrators and the decision makers of Kalamandalam can draw lessons as a guiding light for the years ahead. So first we did with the legendary dancer Padma Bhushan Dhananjayansi. Then we did a webinar on the amazing Guru, Thangamani Kutty teacher, who founded Kalamandalam in Calcutta. And this is the third in the series. And today we have two amazing individuals who are actually husband and wife. They're joining us from England. Their name is Vijay Kumarji and then Barbara Vijay Kumarji. If I have to talk about them, I will have to spend at least 1 hour. And there is enough materials to create a documentary on them. So welcome Vijay Kumarji and Barbara ji. We will hear from them what they have done the past many decades after leaving Kalamandalam. But let me briefly introduce them to you. I will start with Barbara Vijay Kumarji. In the history of Kalamandalam, she is the very first to join for costume making, that is for chutti and similar things, Kathakali chutti. She came in 1972 to Kalamandalam, and her original intention was only to spend 3 months at Kalamandalam. But she remained for 3 years in Kalamandalam learning the intricacies about the chosen subject. So finally, when she left, it was as an expert in chutti and coke that she returned to UK. The rest of the journey we can learn from her directly during her presentation. Then we have Vijay Kumarji. He joined Kalamandalam in 1975 to study Kathakali. In 1988, he married Barbara ji and established a Kathakali theatre called Kala Chetana. And we can say the rest is history. Since then, they have taken more than 3,000 major Kathakali troupes to perform across the length and breadth of United Kingdom. 3 months of the years, they do the tour, and the remaining 9 months, they conduct workshops and lecture classes to a Western audience across United Kingdom. They got opportunity to stage Kathakali even in the British Parliament. Padma Shri Kalamandalam Gobiasan has performed on at least 500 stages of Kala Chetana. Recently, Kala Chetana was awarded 50,000 pounds, which is equivalent to rupees 50 lakhs, by the British government to help continue their noble task of popularizing this amazing art form called Kathakali in UK and the rest of Europe. I can go on and on, as I said, but for want of time, let me cut short here and let's start the webinar in earnest in a Q&A format. The first question to both Barbara ji and Vijay Kumar ji is, when and how did you join Kalamandalam? What was a defining moment in your life that you should pursue this career in Kalamandalam? Any suggestions for the students and the decision makers and the administrators of Kalamandalam from your time spent during that time and the changes that time has brought about in the intervening decades? Over to Barbara ji.
And that desire for perfection came directly from Vallathol. He's enabled so many artists to attain the very best because of the very strict teaching at the Kerala Kalamandalam. My journey to the Kerala Kalamandalam was very unusual because I'd never seen Kathakali, I'd never heard of Kathakali, and I was actually traveling overland to Australia to find the Aborigines to ask them if I could study their makeup. When I was traveling through Kerala, I got off a train at the wrong stop in Vallathol, Nagar, and accidentally found the Kerala Kalamandalam. This is in 1972. I met Leela Nambudripad, and she took me to see the girls dancing Bharatanatyam, I think, and I thought I'd seen Kathakali. I asked if I could study makeup so that my makeup technique would improve, because at the time I'd just finished an art course at Rochdale College of Art and Winchester School of Art, and I had a degree in art. And I was working on the idea of living sculpture or living colour and the qualities of human beings to inject life into images was the reason I wanted to learn makeup. But I never reached Australia. I ended up in Kerala. I went back to England and began saving up enough money to travel again overland to India. For some reason, I didn't realise you could go on an aeroplane. I thought you had to travel overland. And in 1974, I started my course with the greatest teacher of Chutti, that's makeup, and costumes that has ever lived, the legend Govinda Warrior Ashan. I'll never forget my first day in Kalamandalam when I walked up the steps of New Kalamandalam into the office, and Supram was sitting behind his chair, and he says, "I'm going to bring your teacher now." And this great man came in the room, and I knew that I was in the presence of somebody great. He took me down the steps and into my gallery classroom. There was a boy sitting there called Ramachandran, who was my classmate. And Ashan did something very strange. He made us sit together because in them days, the boys and the girls were segregated. But Ashan didn't want me to be sat on my own. That midday on my first day in Kalamandalam, he took me for my midday meal in the boys' hostel. I don't think a girl had ever been in the hostel before. So again, Ashan was breaking rules to make me feel comfortable and welcome. I continued my classes walking through a small white wooden gate across a compound with just a gravel path into my classroom. And every day I studied the art of chutti. It wasn't easy, but one thing that was so special in them days, it was like a big family. The warmth from the major ashans was so strong, and everybody treated me with kindness, with care and sincerity. And studying in Kalamandalam at that time, it was a joy. There were very few students there, and the ones that were there would have done anything to study Kathakali. I had no money. I was very poor. I had no shoes, and I used to live on 2 dry putta for my midday meal. They were awful. And to this day, I still won't eat putta because it reminds me of them days when I was so hungry, but nothing would have stopped me training to do chutti. On the very first week, I was given a pot of rice paste, and Ashant, he couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Malayalam. So he taught me what to do through sounds. And he, instead of saying straight ear and a curve ear and thin ear, he got and dribbling this rice paste to make like a worm shape on an earthenware pot is the basic technique of chutti, and you have to control the flow of the rice. But I had no idea what I was doing because remember, I'd never seen Kathakali. On the Friday night, Ashan was doing chutti on Padma Shri Gobi Ashan's face, and I'd never seen anything like it before. This incredible makeup and superb performance. And I knew I had to study chutti properly, but I didn't know why. I had no idea why, but I knew I was working with something so sacred and so special that I had to do my best. So I used to practice in the evening, practice in the weekends, practice in vacation time. And whenever I saw a Kathakali acting student, I'd grab them and practice on their face. Nothing would stop me. And my name became Chutti Barbara. And that love for chutti, that love for Kathakali, and the love coming from the great, great Ashans is something that I'll never forget. The devotion. The Ashans were the leaders, and they gave everything. They gave us our life. So with great honor, my name, Kalamandalam Barbara Vijay Kumar, is something that I treasure because it reminds me that I am a child of Kalamandalam, and I've devoted the whole of my life to sharing Kathakali with other people, especially the people of this country, because the only way they could see Kathakali was to travel 4,000 miles and go to Kerala. So that was how we eventually brought Kathakali to Britain.
Okay, now, is there any lessons for the students and the administration and the decision makers of Kalamandalam from your experience of those days, which can be a guiding light for them to take Kalamandalam
Yes.
forward in the next years ahead?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, I think what needs to happen, when I was a student and you walked in the green room, it was silent. The Ashans were there like monuments of Kathakali, giants of Kathakali, and their power was there even when they were sitting down putting their makeup on. And when these great gurus, these great masters were in our midst, you didn't speak, you didn't say a word. there was something so special about the Valaka, the devotion. And the devotion is, everything is built on that devotion. Without devotion, it's just another form of theatre. But it's the devotion to Kathakali that links it to its spiritual connection, where the gods come from heaven to earth to teach us how to live a better life. And to be part of that system is an honor. Kathakali doesn't belong to us. We are lucky to be in its shadow for a short time in our life. It's not a ball that we can play games with. It isn't ours. Our pleasure is to be devoted to the soul, the spirit of Kathakali, which Vallathol completely understood. And through his guidance, through his devotion and dedication, and through all the great ashans that came originally from Olapalamana and came into Kalamandalam to carry on the teaching of these great, great traditions, we are so lucky to be part of that. And humbleness is what every student needs to learn. Devotion, humble, and dedication. And that needs to be re-established.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, Vijay Kumar ji, your experience of those years.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Namaskaram. Thank you inviting me to talk about my life on Kalamandalam and what about in a culture in Kerala. We are established last nearly 35 years, and we are bringing Kathakali from India and touring in UK. The differences are, you are asked a few things. One is what Kalamandalam was, the question, isn't it? When I was joined Kalamandalam in 1975, at that time I was a student in Kalamandalam learning Kathakali Chutti. Was a fantastic place because we are only a few Kathakali performers. You know, altogether, I think less than 100 students in Kalamandalam, including girls, maybe 50 or 60 girls, 40 or 45 boys. That's it. Anyway, but all the ashans are great ashans for us in Kalamandalam. You asked the question, what is the difference now and then? The problem, I think, too many people in Kalamandalam as students learning Kathakali, because we are learning too many people, the depth is go down. Because when we are a student, we are only 4 students in a classroom. Now is more than that. And also, it's a modern life made so many different now, because when we are a student, we are a family. We are, ashans and students is like a family. We live together, we work together. And also, Kalamandalam, in that time, Patnam Nayarasan was there. And Satyabhama teacher was there. These 2 teachers actually run Kalamandalam basically after Vallathol. Every decision and every, the committee coming and going, the secretaries or a governing body coming and going. But the difference was the teachers run the institution. The teacher takes the decision and the office staff supporting to the ashans. So that's why Kalamandalam all the way to, when Patnam left, he retired and things started to go down. I saw Mr. The Guru Padma Bhushan Dhananjayan Master said when he came to Kalamandalam a few years ago, he saw a difference from Kalakshetra and Kalamandalam. I understand what Dhananjayan Master said, because the institution must be run by the ashans. The ashans knew what is the best. So if Kalamandalam Asans was take that responsibility to involve with the Kalamandalam's development, then I think can we bring back all the good things back again. Another thing is when we are students, we are performing. Every performance is we are all going to see the shows. We see the performing with the Asans. Perform, that time it's a full night show. Was everywhere it's a full night show. We can see the shows and we can learning from them. They can teach them. That is a difference. I think that is my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Any
That is enough?
Any particular suggestions?
Yes, suggestions. Mahagavi Vallathol, when he started Kalamandalam, was an aim. The aim was save Kathakali, save Mohiniyattam, save Ottantullal. That is, in a way, Vallathol achieved that his view. But the problem, I think, when Kalamandalam the students finish their courses, something like 6 years, 10 years, 11 years, where they can go. Because I knew so many students from Kalamandalam, good students, just finish their courses, and then they go back their villages. Then they disappear into the crowd. So Kathakali and Mohiniyattam and our platform have to survive. We have to support students because that is the beginning. When you finish the course, that's the beginning of their life. Need a support to do more shows or teaching. Because Barbara said at the beginning, and we did more than 3,000 major set Kathakali performances in UK alone. The difference are when the troupe coming to do the show and they're going back. That is every troupe doing it. But me and Barbara is the education work. The education work, we are 9 months of it. I remember more than 200 workshops done a year, going to the schools, colleges, theaters, everywhere. That's why when the show we are running, the people, we got the audience. It's not easy, 35 years running a company, only me and Barbara behind us, because we are running the company. But that is not easy. The trick is the education work. That education work we have no in Kerala. Kathakali, we want to bring Kathakali to the people. What we have to do is we have to inject to the people to understand what Kathakali is. I saw many performances. People think they understand it. They don't. That is a difference is Western audience and the Eastern audience, because we think we know it. But Western audience, they don't understand it. They ask, what is this all about? And they want to learn it. And we need that attitude. Bring that attitude to look into it. Yeah.
The curiosity to understand.
Universities, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
People understand it. Then it's grow.
Shall we go to the next second question? Okay, the second question is, when you were completing the course and living Kalamandalam, did you have any idea of how you're going to develop your career, how your life is going to pan out? Did you plan for it? And how did you end up achieving so much success in a foreign land? Of course, Barbara ji belongs to England, but you created so much success there. So there may be some lessons for today's students from your experience, life experience. Can you illuminate us?
Okay, I want to start. Yeah, okay. Okay, I will start this question first.
Okay.
When I was in Kalamandalam, when I was a Kalamandalam student, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, I started thinking what you have to go to do when you finish your Kalamandalam course. So I knew so many my senior students just disappeared because of no enough support. They are not getting to survive. So I was thinking of what is the next thing to do. I told the Kalamandalam somehow what we can do, starting teaching Kathakali into the schools where people understand it. And then we came to see the Kerala government we started to, but that is not get anywhere. But when before finishing my course, I and my friend Jayakumar, we bought a full set of Kathakali costumes, and we started a small Kathakali group called Nadana Kalodayam. In that time, we were performing all of Kerala. Kalamandalam group is performing, and we are also performing enough performances. And 1986, I finished my Kalamandalam course, and I was outside a freelance performer. And 87 or 88, Barbara came back into Kerala, and she wanted to tour around. She was studying, little more Kathakali makeup to revision course, and then Barbara and me starting to going around these small performances. And one day I was telling to Barbara, I remember one performance was in North Kerala, and that performance run by MBS Ashan, and we were talking in a green room. And Barbara saw where we are struggling. We have no performances, we have no enough food, we have no enough money. And Barbara said, I knew in England all theaters I got a connection with, because Barbara was running a Central Ocean Stream theater company in UK. Why don't we start a small group? So that is all began. Then Barbara and me started to develop this Kalachetana Kathakali company touring. So first tour was 1988, and we traveled all over UK. We went to Canada, we went to starting to performing. So that is the beginning of Kalachetana Kathakali company's tour. So, and education work. Barbara, can you explain that?
Yeah, when I was studying Kathakali, I had no idea what I was going to do. My only thought was to study Chutti. I had no idea why I was doing it or what I was going to do. I just loved Chutti so much, that was important. But as I got to the end of my course in 1976, I realized that I needed to find out if I had enough skill to be a Kathakali Chutti artist. So together with my other classmates, we organized a full night show of 3 programs, Dakshiyaga, Kalyana Saudigam, and Kichakavaram. And I did all the Chuttis on my own. It took 7 hours. And Padmanabhan Ashan and Ramakuti Ashan came to see a second-year student doing all these Chuttis because it had never happened before. But because of my incredible training with the great Govindawaya Ashan, I had a solid training, and also I worked hard. I never stopped practicing. And for that reason alone, I was able to do this full night show. That proved to me that I could do any story in Kathakali, including Hanuman, the hardest Chutti of all. So then I went overland back to India, back to England, ready to start my own work, Centre Ocean Stream, which was using people as living sculpture, where the face was the center of the emotion, center of the sculpture. And I slowly began. Again, I had no money. I was living near Rochdale, and slowly the Arts Council of England started to give funding to create the first performance. And then over the years, we began to establish audiences, and we got a minibus, and we got an office, and we got a computer, and all the things we needed to run a company. When I went back to India in 1986 and saw all these young artists with no support, no help, and no money, I immediately wanted to do something to help. at the time, my own theatre group was at the height. We were getting full houses, standing ovations, and good audiences. But I saw that there was a huge problem with these artists that had trained so well and were ready to develop and mature, but there was no help for them. So coming together with Vijaya with the aim to support young artists, the very first tour, the artists had to have no job and to be in need of financial help, as well as being good and talented. And so when we took Kathakali eventually to the UK in 1988, we were given an award by the Visiting Arts of the British Council for the best organised tour for overseas artists of that year, because of the care that our artists received. Accommodation was good, financial reward was good, care was good. Because we were Kathakali artists, we didn't bring them sandwiches at 6 o'clock before they go on stage. They had meals at the right time when they needed it. So we knew how to look after them. And ever since then, Kathakali's grown and grown and grown and developed in this country. As Vijaya said, the tours weren't the only thing we did. They went hand in hand with the education work, because we didn't want to change Kathakali to suit a Western audience. We wanted to educate the audience to appreciate classical Kathakali. So we protected it. There were never any parades through the street in Kathakali costume. Always it was classical Kathakali. And the audience slowly began to understand. And the workshops that we gave, the pre-tour demonstrations that were interactive, it wasn't speaking at the audience, but engaging them within the art form and making them feel it was theirs. Also, when the audience arrived, I would greet them and say, Namaskaram, thank you for coming. If there were people from Kerala in the audience and people from other parts of the world, I'd get them to speak to each other so they'd be sharing their culture and feel proud of it. And it took many, many years of development to reach the point where we are now. Kathakali has been accepted in this country, not as a commercial thing, but for what it is. And that's the work that Vijaya and me have done over the last 3 decades.
Okay, then let's go to the next. Okay, Vijay Kumar, anything to add to that? Vijay Kumar ji?
I got another angle after bring in, if I got the time to do it. Do you know, in UK, it's got 3 languages in UK. One is main language, English. In Wales, it's got a Welsh language. In Scotland, it's got a Gaelic. But the 4th language is a sign language. That is, in Britain, it's got a 4th language, the British Sign Language, called BSL. That is for the deaf people. Is that sign language, similar language we are using in India? When British was in India, they were introduced that sign language to Indian people. That sign language actually only 400 years old. We got our language. That is a mudra, Kathakali mudra, Kudiyata mudra, Ottanthullal mudra, Krishnata mudra. It's all the same. So why we can't introduce as a practical language to the deaf people in India, in Kerala? If we do that, what we get a more audience, and audience development is, I think, in Kerala or in India, we are not doing it. So that is different in Europe and UK. In Europe, because we as a teacher, we are, your universities and theaters and schools, they all knew what Kathakali is, or lots of people knew the world theater. Our students have no idea. So its education work is very, very important. And my idea is this Kathakali sign language, mudra, we can develop. I actually developed more than 6,000 words. I recorded and put in a video. I'm making a dictionary, pass on to the deaf people. That deaf people can use the sign language, and then we will get an audience.
Okay.
So we can look in the angle to develop.
Okay. Now, taking from your point
okay?
further, now both of you have taken the initiative to propagate, educate about Kathakali, especially in the United Kingdom. What Kalamandalam can do as a program to develop Kathakali, not only in UK, but in continental Europe also, because there are so many Kathakali artists from France, Kudiyatam artists from Germany. So there is we had a webinar with a Kuchipudi dancer from Ukraine. So all over Europe, there is a potential for Kathakali and our other Indian art forms to grow. If only we educate them, we promote, like you have done so beautifully across United Kingdom for Kathakali. So is there anything the Kalamandalam as institution can develop a program to propagate Kathakali in continental Europe? In UK, you are already taking care of. I hope you got my question.
I think first of all,
Yeah.
first of all, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of skill. It's not just talking to people, it's engaging people. It's whenever we give a lecture or a workshop, we are watching the group. What are they about? What are they interested in? It might be ceramics, and we have to find a key into reaching the people. It might be football, it might be ballroom dancing, it might be school children learning about India. We always have to find a key into that group to capture their interest and imagination. It's not just speaking at a group, it's engaging that group. And that's something we specialized in for all these years. And also, it's not teaching Kathakali to copy, but to inspire. There is no way a foreign person can learn Kathakali in 3, 6, 10 months, 3 years, 6 years. It's impossible. But anybody can be inspired by Kathakali to create their own work without imitation. So it's enabling the group, the participating group, to understand elements of Kathakali that link in to their skills that they've already got and to improve them. For example, if you're a contemporary dancer, the lesson from Kathakali is precision. It's focus of energy, understanding of emotion in movement. You don't have to copy Kathakali, but you can inject them qualities into contemporary dance without imitation. And that's what we've specialized in. We don't expect to create hundreds and thousands of bad Kathakali artists, but we want to open and make Kathakali accessible for other people to develop their own work. And also, as well as the technique, it's understanding the philosophy behind Kathakali, the culture, the spirituality, the link between the gods, the ashans, the work that you do, and the giving it back as an act of devotion. That is something that we have ploughed into university students and children and members of the public. It isn't just a dance drama. It's something far greater than that. And finding that greatness comes from stillness, from observation, from understanding. And when people have got that, even though they're creating maybe music, they can inject that quality of Kathakali so that it enriches the arts worldwide, rather than producing a lot of very bad Kathakali artists. So what Kalamandalam can do, we are children of Kalamandalam. Kalamandalam produced us. So with great deep respect for Kalamandalam, needs to offer support after the students' courses have finished. That is essential, that we don't lose these young gifted artists that might not have fully flourished during their courses, even their postgraduate courses. It's support into adulthood where these young artists need that support. And that is essential, that Kalamandalam isn't just like a factory churning out students, but actually returns to the dream of Vallathol, which was to nurture and support artists to become great.
Thank you.
Okay, can I add something with that? Yeah, okay. Barbara said, we are, lots of people asked me, oh, Vijay, are you teaching Kathakali in the UK? We are teaching Kathakali in the UK, but the teaching is a different way. Not become a Kathakali performer, but understand the Kathakali. That's what Barbara said. You can take so many elements like a mudra or a facial expression or a body movements or a sign language, then they can use their drama or their dance and their painting. Example is like in a Kathakali art performing on the stage, like a mountain, is we are creating a abstract movements. The abstract movement, the painter can put in the paper or in the drawing or a development. So that is we doing. And we are actually not only doing the education work in the UK, we are doing all over the world. In the touring, we are normally when bringing from artists from India, touring in the UK because of, me and Barbara can't take people, 15 or 20 people in another country and starting touring because we don't know the situation is there. So we know in UK how is our work. That's why we are concentrating in UK or Europe. But in education work, we did in Canada, we did in Finland, we did in Indonesia and Brazil, all over the world, Germany, all over the world. So me and Barbara's this experience, we can pass on to the graduates in Kalamandalam or other institutions, and they can take into the people or to the outside India. The thing is, how can make a plan for that? People studying Kathakali, the different is, if you like a driving, when you are learning a driving, you can drive the car, but you don't know anything about car. So we are teaching what car is. Then they can use that technique to their art forms. So this is a different education system have to inject to the Kalamandalam or other institution students, then they can use the elements to that's the way. I saw so many demonstrations, so many performances, but the problem is they are not engaging with the audience. What first thing you have to do is engage with the audience to make an interest, and then starting to slowly learning, teaching it. If that's the way doing it, we can develop. The thing is, who going to do it? Or who is planning to do it?
You can do it.
Yeah, who can do it? Me and Barbara willing to do that, to explain to the students or a Kalamandalam or any other institution, but they have to make a plan.
That's because
we can help that.
You're doing it because of the passion, as Barbara ji said. You are not looking at Kathakali as another art form. It's like a divine, something come from God. This is what you, that kind of passion and sacredness you must feel towards that art form. Then you will do everything possible to pass it on to the other people, to instill interest, educating them, isn't it?
Yes.
So
there is one interesting. Sorry. Yeah, there is one interesting thing that's happened in our work.
Okay.
And that is, I'm trained in abstract art, and I see colors as vibrating energy of direction of emotion, but it's abstract, it's not dramatic.
Okay.
I see colors in space. I see the vibration of a space is electric with life energy. And I remember watching a performance in India in a temple, and when the character is moving, the ones that are not moving look as if they're waiting for a bus. There is no relationship between the characters. And I thought, this is really sad. So I looked at our own company, who consist of major artists, and we're talking about how can Kathakali, how can Kalamandalam become better? And I started to speak with them about awareness of the space between them, between the characters, and how alive this space was. For example, in the story Vijay created, Himasundari, is about similar to Snow White, and the prince who falls in love with Snow White gives her a flower. And you can't just give the flower.
Okay.
I wanted to see that space alive with love for each other. And as the flower moved across the space between the characters, that space became alive. And we were working 5 years on the quality of the space between the characters, because that is where the story is told.
Thank you.
And we did a lot of very, very refined work with great artists on this aspect.
Okay.
And that is something that needs to happen in Kalamandalam to make Kalamandalam better, is awareness of the space, because there is nothing worse than an actor who's finished his bit and he's sitting down and he starts fiddling with his uteriums and his charmer, and it looks terrible. Well, we stopped that and clarified, when you are not moving, you are still performing. And the great artists know that, and that could be passed on to the students.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode, the formal end of this episode. As you told me the other day, Barbara ji, you were considered as a daughter by Vasanthi Opal, the youngest daughter of Mahakavi, isn't it? She once told you that you are like a daughter to her. And Vijay Kumar ji also.
Yes, she held my hand.
Vijay Kumar ji also,
Yes.
you know so many people from our family. So you are like a family member of Vallathol. So I don't have to forget.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you. What I'm trying to say is, if I thank you, it will be out of place, because it will be thanking family members for coming and joining in this webinar. But still, it's my duty. It's my duty to formally thank you for coming and joining this episode and giving some wonderful suggestions, which we hope will inspire and guide and will be helpful for the students and the decision makers and who runs Kalamandalam on a day-to-day basis. And this is our objective. Thank you once again. And we request you to take extra care. We learned that England is going through a very difficult phase now with a new strain of corona. So please take extreme care, take care of yourself, and thank you. And namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. I enjoy that.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.